Grace and peace to you from God our Father and from Jesus Christ, his Son, our Lord. Amen. At one time, the world was black and white. I'm not talking about issues. I'm talking about the world, color. Those of us who used to have black and white televisions won't have any trouble envisioning this. And then the world changed, and there was all the colors of the rainbow. It happened sometime in the 60s. That's what I read in the Sunday comics. If you've ever read Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin's father told Calvin that the world used to be black and white. That's why you have all those black and white pictures. And the world changed to color sometime in the 60s. It was something like, if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy, the star of the movie, was living in Kansas, everything was black and white in the movie. Actually, it might be black and white in Kansas, I don't know. And then when she landed in Munchkin Land, everything was color. I remember this was a big deal for us. We went to right next door to Johnny Klein's house. He had a color television, the only one on the block, and it was awesome. And we watched that movie. So imagine the world only black and white, nothing else. No blue, green, yellow, even gray. Or imagine the world just Jew or Gentile. It might be easy to imagine that. Because Gentile, sometimes in the Bible it says the nations. And they're talking about every other nation. According to the Jews, you're either Jew or you're a heathen. You either believe in Yahweh or not. And it doesn't matter if you believe in no gods or other gods. There is only one true God, and that is Yahweh. And there's only one true religion, and that is Judaism. Today, there are certainly religions that make the same claim. Even some Christian groups make the same claim. Now, the sign of the covenant, the contract, the promise between the Jews and the one true God was circumcision. Circumcision is the sign that they are God's chosen people, sons and daughters of Abraham, children of the promise God made to Abraham and Sarah. Some rabbis say that the greatest fear that Jews have is assimilating into nothing. They say we only have, for a sign of identity, the only thing we have is circumcision and a cookbook. Probably not the cookbook. There are a lot of ethnic groups, ethnic, races, even Christian groups, that have similar fears of disappearing through assimilation. Some of you have experienced this fear through your parents or through your grandparents. Yet even today, some ethnic groups and churches today are the same way. They don't want their kids hanging out, dating, especially marrying outside their group because they're afraid they're going to disappear. My mom's best friend couldn't go to her Methodist wedding because the Catholic priest wouldn't let her. I have a friend right now, and her parents will not let her date anybody outside the Wisconsin Synod. Now, I'm beating this to death, because I want us to realize what's at stake here. Paul and Peter and Barnabas are talking about something very radical, very revolutionary. They're saying the world isn't just black and white. There's another color. It's not you're a Jew or you're a heathen. There's another option. We're the other option, right? They're talking about changing the concept of faith and life. It's not just Jew or non-Jew. It's not just Jew as God's chosen people or non-Jew, not God's people. They're saying there's another way to be God's people. God made the Jews God's people through the first covenant made through Abraham and Sarah. The sign of that covenant was circumcision. Now God's doing a new thing through the Holy Spirit. It's not what you do, like getting circumcised or anything else that makes you God's people. It's what God does. You know, in actuality, it never was circumcision that made them God's children. Circumcision was just the sign of the covenant between God and the Jews. It wasn't the covenant itself. And to be clear, God did command the sign. But now faith is the sign of a new covenant. So why are we talking about this? I mean, circumcision really isn't an issue for us. Well, it's because it's about more than just circumcision that they're arguing about. Circumcision argument was about culture, tradition, faith. It's about what we do, it's about what God does, and what's important. If what makes you a Christian is the Holy Spirit, bringing you to faith and not what you do like circumcision or any other outward signs, what's the implication? What does that mean? In the Christian church, we've had lots of arguments about what makes true faith, right? And what does not. This is much more difficult than it may seem. Faith doesn't come to us in a vacuum. It's not abstract. Faith is incarnational, which means it comes to us clothed in culture, clothed in tradition, ethnicity, experience, relationships. It's hard to step out of our own culture, tradition, experience, relationships, and see pure faith, pure spirituality. I think it's like trying to find sugar in a cake that's already baked. And I'm not talking about the frosting. I do like the frosting. In my life, the church has been challenged in our understanding of faith and faith practices. A lot of different things, like style of worship. What's the right instruments to use in worship? Worship attire. Think you could dress like this 20 years ago? How old you have to be to do certain things. The place and the participation of women. Language. Denominations. Sexuality. What does it mean to be a Christian? What if we start with what I think is the basics? Do you love God? Do you love Jesus? Do you love people? That's simple until we try to put that into practice. What does that look like? How do we love God? How do we love people? How can we see that happening? What if we use the example of children? And let me know if you've ever seen this before. Grandma gets sick. What does 5-year-old Jeannie do? She draws a picture to make her feel better. Actually, what she's doing is she's showing her how much she loves her in her own way. Is it the best thing to do for her health? Maybe, maybe not. But it's the best thing Janie can think of. Maybe Janie should do the best that she can, but keep an open mind to maybe there's some other things that she could do. Johnny, Janie's brother, gives Grandma a toy truck. Janie thinks that's really dumb. But she knows he's only 4 years old. He's just a little kid, she thinks. 5-year-old Janie thinks 4-year-old Johnny is just a little kid. That night, Dad leads the kids in prayer, praying to God to heal Grandma. Mom, the doctor, visits Grandma and decides she needs to get to the hospital, so she takes her to the hospital. If loving God and loving people is the sign that the Holy Spirit is active in giving people faith, is anything else necessary? Does anything else exclude us? Are the things about income, race, ethnicity, sexuality, attire, grooming, hobbies, gifts, abilities, inabilities, culture, language, political affiliation, should any of those things make a difference as to whether or not someone is a Christian or not? Now, some of those things might make us feel uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable with you all the time. And I'm sure you're not comfortable with me all the time. We don't have to be comfortable all the time. But still understand that all who love Jesus, all who love God, and all who love other people are children of God. Children of God, God bless you.